Hey guys, what's going on? If you enjoy the content on my channel, then make sure you hit the like button and be sure to hit the subscribe button as well so you can decide on what content and discussions we can have on this channel in the future. And be sure to hit the little bell to get notifications for when I upload videos if you decide to subscribe.
So, cool beans. As of recent, I haven't been able to upload as much video as I would particularly like to upload, but what we're going to do here is initially we're going to cover the entirety of Uratarou. Now, when it comes to this particular series, to be completely honest, it got axed, which is a sad thing, but it got replaced with another series about another character within this series in a completely different world, and we'll talk about that at a later date. But to be completely honest, this series was really cool. It had character, it had story, the art was fundamentally amazing, and there was a lot of things about it that I particularly liked. Now, how did this series end? It ends on volume 5. Does things wrap up in a way that you can particularly like it? That would be up to debate and up to very questionable concerns. But what we're going to do here in this particular video is go through volumes 1 through 5 and ultimately give an explanation of what's happening throughout the duration of this series. Therefore, you don't have to read the entirety of the 50 chapters that are available because we all know what ends up in a dead end. Very much like I said, it gets axed. So the main story is about this girl named Chiyo. Chiyo is the princess of this one land. However, something happened called the Ginpi War, and ultimately with this giant Ginpi War, one side was called the Minamoto of the East and the other one was called the Taira of the West. We are rooting for the Taira of the West very well due to the fact that it's the clan the main heroine's from. Ultimately, at the very end of the day, the Minamoto of the East won the entire conflict due to the very fact that they have supernatural prowess on their side, very much like in the world of Berserk, because in this world there is supernatural creatures and yokai and a variety of other lore fish creatures that are ultimately out there to suit their own needs and their own whims. But ultimately we'll discover this is a reason for to perpetuate the plot on her own journey as the main heroine. But upon escaping this entire death-field battle, she goes out with her manservant to ultimately discover a cure for her illness. Because the thing I've been lacking to say here at this particular time in the story is that Chiyo, the main heroine of the series, has this very specific disease that is ultimately killing her, draining her life force, which will subsequently drain all her life, which will ultimately perpetuate her towards death way quicker than any other individual, meaning that in this time frame she'll probably die in 8 months. So the entire objective of the story is for her to become immortal so she can continue on living. Now this is also in juxtaposition to the main character Uratarou, who is also the secondary main protagonist of the series. His entire objective is to die. He has lived for thousands of years, and his main objective is to die, thus giving his immortality to Chiyo, so Chiyo is able to live and he is able to die. This is all corresponding with a pretty decent love story that's way better than Twilight and some other anime out there, namely Nisekoi, which plot pretty much diverses into nowhere and panders on for quite a bit of time. But with her meeting Uratarou very well due to his reluctant nature as an individual, due to the very fact that he's immortal, he has very social personality issues and socially stunted very well due to the fact that he doesn't communicate with a lot of people. Chiyo goes on this giant ass rant of how she doesn't want to die, pretty much like Takizawa from Tokyo Ghoul, but this one wasn't funny and quite literally serious about this, and very much due to the fact that this chick has this very definitive way and spunk to her attitude. This ultimately convinces Uratarou because Chiyo delivers powerful Naruto level speeches, and she tells the guy, "I will find a way to kill you," and the guy promises her, "I will find a way that I will find your immortality." Now this spurs on to a variety of spontaneous events within the story as they go out through the variety of travels where they fight supernatural creatures, fight crazy cult leaders, ultimately fight a giant serpent woman and an entire army, of excluding a variety of other things that occur throughout this crazy series. Now at this point, these are a variety of the concepts that were dropped throughout the entire series, very well to the fact that it got dropped on volume 5, which is a very sad thing. This is an entire plot about this fox girl that was within the story who was pretty cool, and I really liked her character, but she got dropped very well due to the fact that the series got cancelled, so we don't know what happens at the end of her character arc, but I'll show a picture of her because she's pretty cute, and we're going to go back to the main plot now. So the entire plot of this one particular area is that there's this crazy guy out there. He turns people into gold because he's an alchemist and he's crazy, which is also a reference in relation to the Golden Finger story, which is about the guy who touched everything and thus turning into gold. But this is all coming out in a deliberation from a yokai who is this giant monster. Ultimately, we have this other plot that's happening simultaneously where the main heroine, Chiyo, literally fucking dies and goes to the afterlife but gets pulled back into reality because that's what she is as the main heroine, and is able to go through all these events and tribulations. Then we got this one other character that's a part of this other cult, who is here to take the main heroine, very well to the fact that he's a part of the Minjito of the West, and he has his own political agenda he needs to supersede. This is also coinciding with the Fox girl, who has her own agenda to pretty much kill the Taira chick, very well due to the fact that her entire species was next to the brink of extinction and genocide, very well due to the fact that their entire species was looked at as pretty hostile. This is all leading up to the focal point of the entire arc, where we meet another character who was the original princess of the original kingdom of the Hirara, however obtained more immortality through some supernatural means, who has another detective bodyguard that's also known as Uratarou, who is a real individual who carries this berserk level sword around, and he's able to wipe shit and butt rape individuals with his sword, and he pretty much cuts a swath through everything, which is the pretty much main antagonist. And with all this pretty much happening, this deliberates all into more her strength and resolve to continue on this quest, which will lead her to become immortal and Uratarou to ultimately get killed, and so we can finally rest. This is also coinciding with a variety of other things that are spontaneous within the series, such as 7 chapters focusing on their time alone, developing them as characters in their own interpersonal relationships, also emphasizing and developing the relationship between the main heroine Chiyo and Uratarou as they will develop a romance as the series continues on. Now, at this point in the story, I'm just going to skip to the very brunt of an event. Chiyo gets pregnant. Now, how does this initially happen? Does Uratarou knock him up? Absolutely not. What initially happens here is that a demon works her way into this chick's fetus, and what's ultimately explained is that the curse that she was inevitably suffering from, which was depicted in the beginning of the story, is actually a curse her ancient grandparents made with some type of demon, and ultimately that demon trying to be reborn into a new world through womb transplant, meaning that this chick will give birth to the demon lord, which would therefore take over the world and annihilate humanity. So what's explained here at this very moment, if Chiyo goes into a massive despair girl levels, or ultra despair girl level of despair, she will ultimately basically give birth to the demon lord, and it spins off into a variety of other plots that lead to redemption roads and actually well thought out story arcs and character depression, where ultimately she's faced with her own people, where they all look at her and basically say, you're this monster that pretty much will give birth to the demon lord, we all hate you, everyone we know and love died because of you in this war. And she tries to redeem herself by killing herself, but suicide's never the option, and the other chick stops her and they pretty much develop a friendship. Skipping to the other points that of the story that only matter, Taira and Chiyo ultimately, Chiyo and Uratarou ultimately gain this relationship where they kiss and make out, and they pretty much validate each other's lives and decide to live for each other and decide to get married. But this is all coincided by the most fucked up thing I've ever seen, is that her bodyguard shows up and gives her, her mother's head. What the hell, man? But it's explained here in the story that he's possessed by a demon, so that kinda does make sense. But upon seeing her mother's head, she, gives birth to the demon lord immediately, and it, jumps out of her womb. Kids not, it just, shoves its fingers out of her stomach and comes to life. And then, nightmare-fueled rampage, this thing just goes on a swath, annihilates Uratarou. Uratarou, in conjunction to that, loses his immortality, thus making him mortal once again, and is left to die somewhere in the pillar between volcanic rock, and is pretty much shifting down this river. And with that all being said, that's the entire part 1 of this series, pretty much summed up into 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, getting into part 2 of this series, we're pretty much going to pick up with Uratarou, pretty much defeated, whimmed, old, and pretty much withering. And, we get into the Logan portions of it. In a sense, we can play ourselves a Horror Thong by Johnny Cash, and we can pretty much understand it. Now, what's explained here is that after Uratarou's massive defeat at the hands of that demon lord, he has 2 goals in life after him wandering around. 1, he wants to resurrect Chiyo. 2, he wants to kill the demon lord. And 3, he has a new outlook on life with developing Chiyo's optimistic nature, which was seen and developed throughout the duration of the story. Her entire outlook was optimism, in the sense that Uratarou could tell Chiyo, hey look, the world's on fire and everything's burning, but from Chiyo's entire point of view, she would have just handed him a marshmallow and they would have just made s'mores. This, to be completely honest, that would have been a legit thing that most likely would have happened in this story. Let me write that down, actually. Man, that's a pretty good damn analogy. I can put that in my light novel series. Hang on a sec. But ultimately, as this initially continues on, he ultimately develops this way of where he's now the optimistic person, pretty much embodying what Chiyo believed in within this world, despite the very fact that Japan has completely been overrun by demons, and humans are being subjugated by demons and used as tools, food, and as a source of entertainment within this new dark and depraved world. Well, with all that being said, we ultimately meet this new character, which I will be referring to as Margaret, very well due to the fact that she is pretty much the embodiment of what this guy created in his next series, which is just this girl that plays video games like Amaru-chan, but way better. And, you know, she just goes around and scams demons, and she has big breasts and a very nice thick body, to be completely honest. And, you know, things progress and she has this obsession with money. But, you know, this is all being met by the fact that she, ultimately pretending to be a demon, is confronted by a stack of real demons. And this is all being compounded by the very fact that Uratarou shows up. He has red hair, he has this robotic arm, he's all happy and optimistic, and he's always happy to be alive at this point. And he goes through the process of just annihilating all these demons, because that's how capable he is within the story. And he also carries around this satchel. Now, what's in the satchel is revealed to be Chiyo's head within the series, which is completely creepy as fuck if you were to ask me. But what's explained here at this very moment is this concept. Now, very well due to the fact that Chiyo is the mother of all demons, and due to the very fact that there was demonic blood running through her bodies, her blood is very much the essence of all demon kind, and it comes from the most purest of demons, which is the original one. So when other demons or any other individual consumes her blood, or is simply met with skin contact, they ultimately go berserk, receiving a very highly anticipated power-up, which pretty much drives into the levels of insanity. However, this doesn't affect Uratarou for whatever particular reason in the plot that it explains that I can't quite frankly remember here at this very moment. And the other side note to this is that the demons are completely infatuated with the Chiyo, who is the equivalency of Lilith, the demon queen of mythology, and they all just want to fuck her, despite her being a dislocated corpse. Now, her body's been split into 6 different pieces. 2 legs, 2 arms, the torso, and the head. Now, Uratarou has the head, however, he's looking for the other body parts to reconstruction. And, you know, as this all pretty much simmers on, this guy touches the head, and it gets some blood on him, and he goes berserk level. And Uratarou, being Uratarou, uses some demon knuckle duster punch of destruction to ultimately annihilate this guy in one blow. With all that being said, he pretty much has these eyes filled with hope to live and ultimate joy within his soul. And preceding this is just random spontaneous adventures of him ultimately getting these other body parts to revive his beloved. Now, at this point in the story, we were at Volume 4, and the confirmation of the series getting axed was in Volume 4. So what the writer was supposed to do at this very particular moment is somehow write away and end the story in Volume 5 so it can make some cohesive sense. And this is the point of the story when we start seeing plot holes and a lot of variety of things that ultimately go to absolutely nowhere. So with this guy having this pretty optimistic version in life, and him collecting the 7 remaining pieces of his beloved, which is Chiyo, for this very royal, noble reason, there's other chicks following him very well due to the fact that he's powerful, and she can ultimately fetch a pretty price for Chiyo's head due to the very fact that she has this enigmatic, crazy personality. But we're just going to skip to this point in the story when he gets the other body parts. So he meets this other individual that walks around with a skull, and she's insanely obsessed with death, like Thanos. So we're referring to this character as Thanos. And she has like the hands of Chiyo and a variety of other things like that. And it's revealed her name is Taira Chiyo, and ultimately is Chiyo's like long lost sister apparently. And she also has the ability of necromancy. And like I said, the series got axed, so there's not a lot of explanation of how she has these abilities. And I honestly believe the author would have fleshed this out a little bit more. But you know, what's explained here is, man, this chick's fucking crazy. Oh man, this is disgusting. She's like, what's the word for it? Necrophiliac. Oh, she fucks dead people. Oh no. Oh, she pretty much jumps in the bed with like the demon corpse Chiyo when it was all combined together before that sick guy pretty much performed it, or this is her fantasizing about it. And you know, she's doing things to her body. Ooh, disgusting, man. And everyone's all like, Jesus Christ, man, holy shit balls. That's dark. That's dark, man. And then ultimately the entire fight begins with Uratarou saying, look, I have this goal of bringing Chiyo back to life, if you're not down with that, ultimately I'm just gonna have to kick your ass. And the other chick says, well, my entire objective is to have her dead corpse with me, because everyone that was living throughout the duration of my life either disappeared and died, and did things never leave me. This ultimately leads into this conflict when he uses his go-go gadget fist punch thing, and it just kills a lot of dead things around him, and he just punches the hell out of this chick and knocks all her teeth out, and that's pretty much the entire end of the conflict. But due to the very fact that's the why she loves death to the point that she's a necromancer and quite literally a lich at this point, she is unable to die from the knuckle duncer punch and becomes whatever the hell this thing is. It looks like the Chaos Lich from Dark Souls 1 and Blighttown, to be completely honest, mixed in with some Vishnu in there and is doing some crazy moves of necromancy and things like that. And, you know, she turns into something called a Gashirasha from yokai mythology, which something I won't have to explain. And as this all shows up, this guy just punches the hell out of her again, and this is able to completely annihilate this chick. Now, the funny thing about this entire thing is she actually does get Chiyo's head, and she wins. But what happens here, it's like the head is become sentient, and it rolls down a hill into the arms of Uratarou, and she gets like rejected by death, and she just kills herself. And she kills herself again. It's funny, but pretty much getting to the back half of it, because we're at in-games point, and we're around chapter 41, and there's a lot of things that we really don't need to talk about that happen in between that event and this event, is they get onto this giant demon train, and it has a head and a face, and it's a sentient thing that's on fire, and it's absolutely bonkers crazy because some of Chiyo's blood fell on it. And now it's on LSD, it has like Uber Overdrive mode, and it's pretty much trying to get to one particular destination with the Demon Lord. And even without like all the demon parts, he pretty much faces the Demon Lord at this point in the story. And you know, there's a bunch of demons on the train and all the demons die. He kills them. You know, there's one particular area in the story as well where it looks like this other chick's gonna get really taken away. I forgot what I called her, but I'm gonna call her Mandy at this point. I think I originally called her Murphy, even though I said it like 5 minutes ago. I completely forgot her name. As that initially continues on, she doesn't get taken away, and they fall off into this crater, and they split off here at this one particular point in the story. Now, as well as that, we meet this insane person who pretty much has this entire ideology of very well to the fact that you're like humanity's greatest warrior, Uratarou. You have to join our army to initially fight the other creatures and demons because we need your help. And apparently he's also a part of Nudist Beach from Kill La Kill. Now, this is one other part where they go into this one cafe. There's a bunch of women there, and they're all cute and they're all beautiful. And you know, they say, "Welcome back, master," and things like that. They get some instigations and some type of insurgency rises up. Basically, this one other chick says, "You can do whatever the hell you want, Uratarou, because I'm counting on you." Skipping to the very end of it, this one other dude shows up that was Chiyo's original bodyguard, who was possessed by a demon. And what happens is he taunts the main character, and the main character beats the shit out of him. And this all comes into the roost when he ultimately tells him that he had lost all meaning for existing and living, very well, to the fact that his life was entrenched in chaos, and as a demon he was supposed to create turmoil. He found no life and no meaning in that, so he decided to help Uratarou, and he ultimately crushes the head of Chiyo, which pretty much triggers him into becoming the demonic Uratarou, and he develops a demon head because he's now possessed by a demon. It's not really explained how this works, but I assure you it would have been explained if the story didn't get axed. Now, this all ends with him literally shoving his fist through this guy's chest. Ugh, man, this is some beautiful art. This is amazing. Way better than Goblin Slayer. Man, look at this art, and the panel working is amazing. Literally punches his chest to this guy, and when he does it, he's not done just yet. He literally pulls a Luffy from One Piece and Bogo punches this dude into pieces. It's amazing. Man, if this ever gets like a publication in the West, I'm buying it immediately. Automatic buy. But as this initially continues, he faces this Demon Lord, and he's feasting on the corpse of his own people because that's what the Demon Lord does, and he views everyone as a small fry. And Chiyo comes back to life out of nowhere. I really don't know how this happened, but she just came back to life out of nowhere, and there's not really a lot of explanation behind it. But like I said, the story got axed. Then we got this one creepy picture of Chiyo being infested by like all these parasites and chaos. It's absolutely berserker and nuts here. But as this continues on, Uratarou, being who he is, decides to absorb all this chaos, and his body gets eaten away. and he pretty much says, "I'll never let you go." And them loving each other, they decide to hold, and Uratarou gets killed. But before he dies, he turns into a coconut, believe it or not. And the coconut splits open, and there's a little baby inside, which is a reincarnated version of Uratarou. And Chiyo ceases being human, and Chiyo raises the young Uratarou into being a normal human being. And Chiyo grows old and dies. And that's the ending of a story that was axed. Like I said, it was a good story up until volume 4, when the story got axed and the writer was forced into a situation where he introduced all these cool concepts, but was forced to inevitably put it all to an end in one volume. So yeah, that's how Uratarou ends. It was a good story, however, like I said, it got axed, so we couldn't really see what was supposed to happen at the end. But honestly, this seemed like a series that would have been like maybe 14 volumes long, if done properly. But with that being said, that's Uratarou, and next time we're going to go back to Vinland Saga. Then we'll explain the following arcs of Tokyo Ghoul, because it's summertime, baby!